Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and thank you for joining me once again for another episode of the Foreclosure Fraud and Its Victims radio program. My name is Senka, and I thank you again for being with me today. I thank you for your emails of support and for your strength to speak up, to talk about your story, to share with the world the most personal issues. I know it's tough, but we all can agree that it's still easier to talk about this than stay silent and suffer alone. We all can agree that by talking about this, we are becoming a part of a large family, a family that understands your situation, understands the dilemma you are facing, and understands that this fight can be fought alone. We all understood early on in this fight that our ignorance will be their strength. With our silence, we are giving strength to all those who are responsible for this mortgage securitization fraud, which is resulting now in foreclosure fraud. Our guest today is Bobby Jo Lister. She's from Georgia. She's certified forensic loan auditor and certified mortgage securitization auditor. The meaning of your title was completely unknown to me only 2 years ago, and as many other titles and terms involved in this foreclosure mortgage securitization fight. Like a few days ago, I talked to my friend John Wright of Piggy Bank Blog, and we were talking that it would be really nice if one day all of us foreclosure fighters gather in one room. And John said, yeah, it's really nice, but for everybody outside who is not involved in this fight, we will sound like a bunch of crazy people because a lot of us, we are losing some terms that are confusing, but still we have to learn it in order to go on and fight this. So Bobby Jo, she's an expert, and she will be with us today to help us understand more why the mortgage forensic auditor is so important in this fight. People call her a game changer, and I also call her that. She's an extremely, not only that she has so much knowledge to share, but when you talk to her, she gives you hope, and she inspires you to go on and do this fight. So right now I would like to welcome Bobby Jo, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Senka, for having me, and good afternoon to you. I'm excited. Thank you for this opportunity to share. And I think what I want to start with was what you said earlier about people hearing the language for the first time.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the programs that I have developed is helping people really understand the language of securitization. Now, early on, many of us had never heard of the word securitization. Even when we went to the closing table, we never heard the word securitization. And it sounds like a complex word, but it's not really a complex process. It is one that we just have to look at and break it down in simplified pieces so that we can understand who's all involved in the transaction. So just starting right there with the language, because, sometimes I know you may have gone to get your nails done, and the people were doing your nails and speaking a completely different language, and so I think I want to start by saying to the audience that initially in the securitization process, there were parties involved that you may not have ever heard of. And I'll say the four main parties would have been the originator, the sponsor, the depositor, and then the trust. So that's just a simplified version of who all is involved in the securitization process. That would be the originator, the sponsor, the depositor, and the trust. So I always try to make it simple because it took me some time to kind of really get that process down in my mind. You may say something like, oh, stop doing that. Or, to help you remember that the process should have been from the originator to the sponsor to the depositor to the trust. Okay?
Okay.
Now let me say this. I'm never saying that securitization is illegal. Securitization is perfectly legal when done right. And the problem we seem to have had is that it wasn't done right in a majority or
yes. Can I ask you something? Can I ask you then, when did you realize that we are facing, as I call it, the biggest financial Ponzi scheme in history? When did you realize that the majority of securitization wasn't done right?
Well,
and how did you realize? How did you find out?
Well, the numbers are not yet in, Senka. We still know that we are facing a gigantic problem. Some estimates early on were that it was like 62 million mortgages may or may not have been properly securitized. The numbers early on that the value was at 20 trillion. Now we're hearing numbers like 80 trillion. We're hearing infinite numbers, that keep growing. So I'm not going to say exactly, but at some point I realized that there was a major problem. At first I thought I was alone, let me say that, like so many of us do, okay? I thought it was my problem, all right? Till I got on the Internet and started to reach out to the people in the communities across the country, and that's from Florida to Maine to San Diego to Washington State, and, and I began to learn that I was not alone because maybe my neighbor or none of my immediate family was able to help me understand this crisis. It took people from around the country kind of discovering and us learning at the same time. What we know now is that this crisis is a major systemic issue to our country. And even there may have been once upon a time that if I had one foreclosure in my neighborhood, maybe all my neighbors would not suffer so bad. But now we're having neighborhoods where you may have 10 houses and 5 foreclosures. And now it's everybody's problem. The schools are suffering. The fire departments are suffering. The city taxes are suffering. Our whole infrastructure, our whole American foundation of financial integrity. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. And we're often here to say they must restore trust in the system. Well, it first has to be understood. Yes.
And in which area of this mortgage origination, securitization, foreclosure, in which area you see the biggest percentage of fraudulent paperwork, or do you think that it's evenly spread around?
So when I explained to you earlier from what happened, that provides the framework for me to now answer this question for you, Senka. Originator to the sponsor to the depositor to the trust. What we see happening is that the paperwork that should have been done to transfer the mortgage loan pool properly from the originator to the sponsor to the depositor to the trust was not done. Now, according to my understanding, these were all true sales, okay? And we know that each time a true sale occurs, paperwork has to be done. Now, in the rush, a lot of people, as far as Adam Leviton, Joseph Stiegler, Christopher, all of them have found, and this is academia. These professors from the different law schools around the country have looked at this issue and said, in the particular rush to do securitization, to securitize as many loans as you possibly could, a lot of this paperwork wasn't done. So the major flaw that we see is that none of these loans were properly transferred from A to B to C to D, from originator to the sponsor to the depositor to the trust. So now those mortgages and security deeds out there will still be in the name of the originator. and that originator has perhaps filed bankruptcy and is no longer in business. Okay? So now we have a problem because the security deeds or the only sale that's been recorded still has the originator as the grantee, or maybe MERS, in which MERS is another part of the securitization transaction, okay? Maybe in some cases that loan would be in MERS. That's why they were using MERS as the nominee. So now we see that because the originator is not there to execute the proper paperwork, he's out of business, he's filed bankruptcy, and the sponsor, who sometimes these entities are so close, you don't know that they are not the same party. Like your originator, by way of example, may be Mortgage Loan Corp. Your sponsor might be Mortgage Loan LLC. You see? So when I talk, I said, well, I have an arrangement with Mortgage Loan Corp. And if I never make the distinction between Mortgage Loan Corp and Mortgage Loan LLC initially, you can see how it gets confusing. Because Mortgage Loan Corp has filed bankruptcy and is no longer in business. My sponsor, who may be Mortgage Loan Inc., may have also filed bankruptcy. There are lists of over 2,000 originators who have filed bankruptcy.
Wow.
And so sponsor depositor. So now we just need, it appears that they thought just doing the transfer from originator to the trustee and bypassing the needed recording and documentation of the two intervening true sales would suffice.
Okay.
Did I make that?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you very well. I'm sorry.
You did not hear? Did you understand what I said?
Yeah. Yes. I did, but I bet that a lot of people are still having trouble to get, not only to understand, but to even when you understand. For example, I understand what's going on, and I understand how you explain it. But once I understand, I can tell you that I'm afraid even more than I was before, because it is so, you have a feeling that they put this together and all of this like securitization steps, that this is so hard, at least we think as people who are outside of that arena, that it's hard to fight them. It's hard and you feel hopeless, and a lot of people when I talk to people, a lot of them, when they find more and more about this fraud, they are giving up more now because they think it's so hopeless to fight it, because they think that they can do it on their own, and there are not a lot of lawyers, for example, in some of the areas that are willing to put up with this fight. So what's your advice? What can you also tell us why it's important to have this type of audits if you decide to go and to fight it in the courtroom? Why do we have to have these audits prepared for our mortgages?
And that's why I hope and I want your listeners to go back and listen to what I said, and understanding that most homeowners are not aware that when ABC Trust has decided that they're foreclosing on you and you've never heard of them, then it raises a red flag. And if you're not sure, you should ask, who lets someone come foreclose on their property without saying, who are you? Who does that? Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you have ABC Trust is foreclosing on your property. You go down to the courthouse and you may see that security deed has been assigned to ABC Trust. You may see that. You may not. And many times they are foreclosing before recording any assignment to the trust. And this, in judicial states, has been the reason that many of the times their suit would be dismissed because they did not have standing, meaning that they have no recorded interest in this property. And we see in many cases, and I think it was similar to Ibanez where, and I may get my cases mixed up, but a lot of times they do not even file the assignment until after the lawsuit has been initiated. Okay. Let me slow that down. Sometimes the bank that's foreclosing has not even taken the time to record their interest at the county. Now, we have a collision here of federal statutes which control, number one, that note that's involved. We have trust laws which the trust must operate under, and then we have state recording laws. And a lot of times these foreclosure battles are going to have to be fought on using state statutes. Okay? Property is a state issue. And so then the homeowner trying to defend their property must understand what are the recording requirements of your state. Now, in Georgia, most of our cases will center around a secured party creditor. And, secured party creditor would be the one who has the right to publish and exercise foreclosure on the deed of power. Okay? Now, in some states where it's judicial, the foreclosing party would have to file a lawsuit. And when they file that lawsuit, according to the courts, they should already have recorded that interest in that property. You don't file the lawsuit and then go file your assignment. All right?
Okay.
So let's get back to what homeowners and looking at auditing processes and the foreclosure process. Let me try to put it in a context that you can relate to. First of all, I'm not here to sell you audits. I'm here to encourage you, number one, just to know as much as you can about the most important financial decisions many of us will make. And it will make you or break you. And some people don't break easy. They're going to fight for either to be done right or to make sure that no one is taking their home who is not entitled to it. I'm not even here to convince people to fight. I stopped doing that. I'm here for people who already got a made-up mind. I'm not here for the naysayers who say securitization don't work. It's like if whatever works for you, work that. Now, let me go back to why I support securitization auditing. Because securitization auditing, and you said when you first came on, this was not even a title when I started to fight.
Wow, I didn't know that, you see.
No, there was no such thing as, because we didn't even know what securitization auditing was. So by the collective intelligence of people from around the country, we needed some structure as to what information is important and how and where to go about collecting that in foreclosure defense. And for us, the most simplified process has been securitization auditing and perfecting it. It's not perfect, but it does provide a framework for what information needs to be collected, who are the parties involved, and given that, and this is the work that attorneys need us to do. This is the work that attorneys don't want to do. And once we can do this work, collect this data, and put it on the table in front of an attorney, they're more likely to say, okay, now I see how I can help this homeowner. Okay?
Yes.
That's securitization auditing in terms of a philosophy of developing critical, correct information from credible sources. We're not going by what somebody told us. We go look and gather information from national databases, state databases, proprietary pay databases, Some of us and some clients want Bloomberg reports. We can pull those because we have access to them. Some people don't even know how to go down to the county and look for or what to look for, but we do. And many of the counties are now online. I just found out that my small town in Mississippi is now online with all their information. Canton, Mississippi. I'm so proud. Okay?
Yeah.
So there are some cities that are not yet online, so we may have to use some title report services, title services, to go out there and pull that information away. And what we're doing, the laws that support this data are 300 years old. Now, what happened was when they started using MERS to record or privately record their interests and privately transfer ownership rights from one party to another without recording them in the county, that's a conflict that has to be worked out somewhere in the courts. And I'm not here to even talk about law. I'm just talking about why we collect the data that we collect, because we are trying to help the homeowner understand, number one, who's involved, and number two, what's the timeline.
Okay. Can I just interrupt you for a second? I just want to tell our listeners that if they log into the link and they can see on their screen, I hope they can see the chat room on the right, so you can post your questions for Bobby Joe and in the chat room, or you can email them to me right now at foreclosurefraud12@gmail.com. Bobby Joe, you can continue. I'm sorry. I just saw that people are logging in, so I just want to let them know that they are free to ask any questions.
And we would appreciate it. Now, I'm going to shape this. We talked about auditing. I've given my defense. If you got a better process, of collecting data that you know that you need, because a lot of the data I didn't know I initially needed it. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm a researcher by nature. I study and I thought, but it took me a year or two sometimes to find out this could be some valuable information here if applied correctly. So I'm not just interested in doing auditors. Audits. I'm interested in working with and perfecting the process of auditing, okay? Now, as auditors, what we kind of have to do is, I say we need to look, and homeowners and attorneys, I have identified 4 particular items that we need to look at each time a client comes in the door. The first one, and I call it BJ's Tips, okay? And that's going to be TIPP. Now, the first one is T. And being a real estate agent, if I learned nothing else, they always taught me that time is of the essence, right? In all real estate transactions, that is axiomatic, that time is of the essence. And really, based on a lot of the research I've been doing now, time is also axiomatic in judicial processes. We have a certain amount of time to get things done, or they could be not available to us as an option, right?
Yes.
Okay? So I'm expanding that concept, but time. In auditor and working with homeowners and homeowners who are pro se, your number one consideration is time. I've had people come to me who've never been late on a payment. I've had people come to me the day before foreclosure. I've had people come to me and say my property was foreclosed on 2 years ago. So the first question or consideration is time for the homeowner. Sometimes they're headed to dispossessory court. You know, you don't need an audit necessarily when you're headed to dispossessory court. You need an attorney. And it would not be fair of me as an auditor to waste your time or take your money, because right now you need to get with an attorney who can help you answer your dispossessory, okay? Because if you're not going to do that, then you probably need to start packing, and you're going to need that money to move. Time.
Okay.
Now, I'm slowing up. Is anything I need to readdress?
Actually, if you want, I have one question from somebody who is listening right now, and I'm not sure. I don't see which state they are in. They're saying, like, I know that the credit union sold my mortgage, but they never recorded an assignment. So I guess they need an advice, like how to proceed, how to, where to go from here.
And again, see, that's one of those questions that people ask me that I need to start asking questions also, because the credit union sold my mortgage. Then we're gonna know what year was this, and what credit union was this, and what's your time factor? Are you in a financial strait? Are you looking at the fact that you may not be able to pay your mortgage, or how much time do we have to deal with this issue? That would kind of be the first thing. I would ask them some questions. You know that they have not recorded it. And at this time, then we have to go back and look at your state statutes. What are the requirements for your state?
Okay, so I will ask this listener to please send me an email, and you see you did hear what BJ needs for you in order to try to help you out. So can you just send me an email explaining your current situation? So send me an email at foreclosurefraud12@gmail.com, and I will try to connect you with BJ, and we can go from there. Okay, now I would like to go to the next question that I had for you. Many people did advise me at the beginning of this fight, and I did follow that route, to try and reach out to my local or state government officials to tell them my story and to tell them stories of the other people, to put them on notice that, what's going on. So did you do that in Georgia or on the federal level? Did you try to connect with people who are supposed to represent us and to fight for, in our name, for justice? And what's your experience with that?
And I'm ashamed to say, really, I haven't. Not ashamed, but it's not how I operate. Like I said, my strength is in research and information, pretty much. And I spend an exorbitant amount of time reading, researching, sharing, and auditing, and fighting my own foreclosure, okay? So I will be a part of anything that someone else has organized. You know what I'm saying? It means I can show up and support, or even I can be a court watcher. I can fit into those roles, but I'm not much active in just contacting or writing hundreds of letters to officials. That has not really been my approach, but there have been some people who have carved out a niche and made it their concentration, so to speak, to put legislatures and everybody and anybody always that they can on notice of their situation. We do and have sent copies of our concerns to the OCC or SEC and all those places like that. We would CC some of the letters of concerns we've had, but that's pretty much my extent in that area.
Experience, okay. And also, can you tell us more how many lawyers that you meet with or that you talk to are actually familiar with this mortgage securitization fraud during your first talk, and how many of them are willing, even if they're not familiar, how many of them are willing to jump on in this fight and actually learn about this and do the right thing?
Now, see, that's really attorneys are coming on board more and more and more for various reasons. Initially, there were so few attorneys or for the same reason as homeowners. I'm not going to pick on them, but they just thought that if you couldn't pay your mortgage, then you need to pack and leave. It's over. Because we thought we had entered into that kind of traditional mortgage until we found out differently, right? We found out maybe there's something more we need to look at here. So, I went to see a few lawyers, and I often have said I had some pretty sleepless nights after going to see an attorney. It's like, well, you don't have this or you don't have that, and they weren't willing necessarily to come on board because maybe they weren't going through foreclosure. Maybe they didn't have members in their family. Maybe they weren't seeing at that point the slow killing of America, so to speak. They didn't see the bleeding yet.
Yes.
Okay.
They didn't connect. They couldn't connect. Even now, when people talk about fiscal cliff, about economic collapse, about all this crisis in the world, people don't get it when you tell them everything goes back 10 years ago when they started selling these nice products on Wall Street, and they call it mortgage-backed securities, and everything can get tracked back to this. And it's hard for people to understand that everything that we are experiencing now, and everybody's saying that the worst is coming next year, that we have to fight back the banks and what they did. And not only the banks, government also, because they let them do this. Because if we don't do it now, they will repeat it again. And we will talk later on the program about how Goldman Sachs is selling mortgage-backed securities again. We have to do something, and we have to have good lawyers on our side. When I said good lawyers, I said I'm sorry for every lawyer out there, but you know that there are people who are in this for money. They want to promise you everything, that they want to promise you, oh, yeah, you have fraud in your mortgage, I can get your house back, you don't have to pay the banks, if they own your, in these lawyers will promise everything and take your money up front. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about lawyers who are in this to fight for their legal profession, because what these banks are doing, and banks lawyers, they are committing fraud on our courts too, and judges are getting along with that so far, most of them.
And that's, let me say, lawyers at the end of the day, they are people too, and sometimes we give them too much credit, and sometimes we don't give them enough. Sometimes we lean on them too heavily, and sometimes we don't lean on them enough. There are some circumstances out there that, regardless, you may be in a situation where you are going to lose your home because the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, and that's about all that can happen. This is not 100% across the board. Everybody that ever had a mortgage has a defense for foreclosure. It's not that kind of party. Now, there are attorneys, you will find them of the type who, like you said, they are fighting for the integrity of their profession. And or they see that sometimes we've all been given a charge, just to help people who cannot help themselves. We have little old ladies who were seduced into documents beyond their comprehension, who were misrepresented the terms of, and so it's almost like the time when people couldn't read, then we read for them. We hold their hand. We try to support them, because they've been seduced into transactions that they don't understand, and there was not full disclosure, and now they are just about to be put out on the street. And we have a rage against injustice in this country. This is ridiculous. This is totally ridiculous. And here's what I asked Mario when I was on your case, when we were talking before. You see what's happening. We've been waving the yellow flag. We've been we sent up the smoke signals. We've been trying to cry out to the world, and the world is crying back out to us because there are places around the world, like we say, Iceland and some of the other, because this is happening globally.
It is globally, yes, because let me tell you, I keep repeating this probably on every other show about my mortgage. My mortgage, like one of the owners of my mortgage is some French corporation, and it just like people don't realize, like, and this month will be 2 years since I'm not paying my mortgage. So,
all of them are foreign corporations now. I mean.
Yes.
If you go to the SEC, I mean, Bank of America is a foreign corporation, right? Most of these institutions are foreign corporations. HSBC is a foreign corporation. You know, even though they wear American names, they're foreign corporations. Yes. Even though we think of them as the bank next door, these are foreign corporations. And I don't want to, just too into that, but we have a major global systemic issue, and there is really just people are hurting. And like we saw yesterday, that we have more people, more empty houses, more homeless people than we have empty houses. We have more empty houses than homeless people.
Yes. Okay, can I ask you something? Because I have another question from a listener, and her name is Michelle Darnell, and I know that she's also one of really like 24/7 foreclosure fighters. And her question goes like, well, with what you just said when you mentioned Mario and how you get together, and also when you mentioned how you find everything about this doing research. Like 99% of us, like regular homeowners, we found about each other through doing research and investigating and trying to make ourselves aware that we are not crazy, that there are other people like us. So Michelle's question for, it's not only bad for you, but for all of us, it's like, she said, even if it's difficult to fight, we must do a better job of educating the people who do not feel they are affected by this problem. And there has been an engineered collapse of our middle class with the MBS, mortgage-backed securities. We need to do a better job of explaining why this is not a deadbeat homeowner issue, but something much greater and more devious. And I totally agree with Michelle, but let me tell you, Michelle, and to everybody else, I don't know what to do anymore. I connected with my county register of deeds office, and we organized a couple of meetings with John O'Brien and his first assistant Kevin, and they were talking to people right here in my community and about this issue and about the thing that they should go on and check their mortgage assignments in the county register to see if there is a fraud. And we were trying to teach them how to fight it, how to hold bank responsible. However, and then I was trying to organize another event like that in October, but I had only a couple RSVPs. So I really don't know. We don't have money, nor you don't have access to the mass media, because there are only few journalists so far in the whole country that they were willing to touch this issue. And if we had a couple of millions to invest and to go on TV, that will be great. But since we don't have money, I don't know. I'm getting tired of talking to people, just asking them not to stop paying their mortgage, but just to get interest in this, because they are sending their money to somebody who probably don't own their home. And people are like staring at you like you are a crazy person. So Michelle, I really don't know what else to do and how to awake people. So I don't know if BJ has any suggestions. I'm willing to listen and to go there.
I think you may have heard my frustration with that earlier on when I said I'm just not here to convince people to fight anymore. If you want to fight, come along. I'm not here to convince you to fight, because that way I just don't have the energy. If people are ready to fight, then I'm ready to help fight with you. because like you were saying, you get a little bit exhausted. Michelle, I think was may have just come out of a hearing recently. I'm thinking that I did read something from her. Basically, she's had some experiences in maybe court watching or something like that where, okay, once we get through fighting the people on the outside trying to get them to listen, we try to convince our families that we're not crazy. Then we got to go into the courtroom.
Well, my family gave up on me and after 6 months of my fight. They just did. They really think you're crazy.
And I was talking to another fighter friend of mine up in Kentucky, and he was saying that basically this whole fight, it consumes you, and I'm trying to get people to say very much like if you were studying to get your PhD or if you were in law school, it kind of takes that kind of concentration, except for you just don't have nobody saying you got to do this. This is the price we pay for rent. Okay? Now, if you want to go and try not fight, that's totally up to you, but like he was saying, this whole situation creates an imbalance in your life. But we believe, here it is, it's not that I believe in this house, I believe in what we are fighting about. I believe that we're fighting about a systemic lie that's being able to be perpetuated on the American people to rob them of their homes. I believe the banks know it, the courts know it, and more attorneys know it, homeowners know it. Homeowners are winning. To me, winning is waking up tomorrow in your house. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I always say, even if I solve my case tomorrow with the bank, and even if I don't have anything personal involved, I am fighting for justice. It's not only I'm fighting for all other people who don't have a voice or who don't have a strength to fight this. We have to realize, guys, that we are fighting in a way for our country.
Absolutely.
Because it is a huge shame on our country. When I talk to people in Europe now, people are realizing what is happening, and they're realizing that it came from here. So I'm telling them we are not like that. There are just a few people who are so rich and powerful and greedy that they did that. But regular people are not like that, and we are fighting to save our country's future.
But I think, in a way, and this is probably why our voice is not being heard, we see the riots in the countries around the world of people fighting for their civil rights, but somehow in America, I think everybody thinks we are free and we have freedom of speech. And the banks are treating us right, and they've been lulled to sleep with a whole lot of propaganda. At the same time, the house is being stolen right from up under your feet. And I don't mind if you come to me with the honest transaction and you explain to me honestly the terms that I'm getting into. You explain to me honestly the parties that's going to be a part of this transaction. You should have a red flag raised when someone who is foreclosing on your house is someone you did not enter into a business or real estate transaction with. You should at least say, who are you? Even they depend on us making so many false assumptions about the transaction. And I've made myself, even and I've been to court a couple of times, and one of the times the attorney just stepped forth and he threw the packet down and asked me, well, when the last time you made a payment? I said, well, who are you? I've never been even introduced to you. I'm supposed to assume that all my information is in that packet. I'm supposed to assume that you represent who? You never said that. And they just let us, and then I'm supposed to start answering questions to this stranger. I'm not going to do it. So we have to kind of educate ourselves about not only correct information. Now, we talked about time. Now we talk about information. Like the lady that called in, she has a question, but as an auditor or an attorney, we need to collect information on the clients. Then we need to collect information for the clients. That's what auditing is about. And there are people who don't have time for it. You know, some people are hungry. And, you know, it's like when somebody's hungry for something, if you have it and it's going to bless their lives, it's almost like you just have an obligation to help that person. Some people come to me like a student, you know.
Yeah.
And, and to those people, it's almost like I have an obligation to share and point them in the right directions because they're just wanting to do it themselves. And people have done that for me, okay? So we look at the time. We collect information, and here's the thing. We need to collect information early on, as soon as possible. If you get good information late, it's almost like not getting it at all. And that's where I think a qualified, whether it's auditor or researcher or abstractor or title document or something in your hand before you go to that attorney, or even your attorney. A lot of times attorneys will call me in or refer an audit to me, and I may never meet the client because they know, okay, BJ, just put all this information. What's the MERS number? What's the account number? Is there one or two account numbers? Is this a first or a second? Is it a MERS or a originator on the mortgage? Is the originator in bankruptcy? Has the originator been found to be practicing foreclosure in any other cases? Are there any other prevailing cases out there where they've practiced the same thing? And we can provide that information.
Okay, that's great. And let me just go back because Michelle just posted something in the chat room. Her advice, I think it's really great, and really people have to organize and do this. Her idea and her advice how to educate people and how to get us together, she said, I am a paralegal for a firm who is at the forefront of this battle in Washington State. She said specifically, I would request Fox to help us by showing up at the hearings. We need the judges to know that people are watching. This is a small action but very powerful. And let me tell you, this is a great idea to do because I remember one of my friends here, she's also she's fighting here foreclosure for 4 years now and successfully. And she also said whenever she has a hearing, she will have at least every time between 5 and 10 of her friends with a notebook. She will go and sometimes judge clerk will ask why do you need these people in? She said, I need them as witnesses, and they need to learn about what's lying on, in their cases.
Absolutely, 100%. That is very, very. Now that's where I show up.
That's a great point, Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for saying this, and I will keep saying now from now on every time.
Michelle, also and that was the effort. And this is also about collective intelligence. If you see, my profile, one of my pictures on my Facebook is there are attorneys there who are with me. They don't necessarily represent me, but there were about 8 of us who showed up at my previous hearing here in Fulton County. Now, when I went before the judge, basically, he was so pro-bank. And I've still not said his name in public. I don't do a lot of name bashing or institutional bashing. I don't get letters from people that saying, you bash me, I'm going to sue you, because I know how to stay out of that lane. But the judge was so extremely rude to me, and I said, I need some people to come and see, am I just mistaken? You know, and it was even the attorneys were there who may ultimately bring new clients before this man. You know how he's going to operate. You understand what I'm saying? He's going to operate pro-bank way, and he's going to give information and instruction to the other side. That's how they operate. So, that's very powerful. And, when I first went to dispossessory court, they would always have me sit there the whole day and be the last person. Then they would ask everybody to leave the courtroom that was not a part of my case, okay?
Wow.
But they did me a favor because by sitting there all day, I was learning. I was watching. You understand what I'm saying? every move that every time I go to court, I'm like on the front row. I'm paying attention. I'm trying to eavesdrop between what the attorneys are saying to each other. I'm absorbing that knowledge 100% to learn so that I can apply it for myself, because going into court is a very nerve-wracking thing for clients that are first time. We are instead of thinking the court is our friend, we are afraid.
Yes. Mhm.
And that's where this kind of going in and supporting each other and being a court watcher is necessary, and it gives the other side some, that emotional support. Absolutely.
Yes, and then because I was so angry at the beginning, and I was thinking and saying that all government is corrupt, all judges are corrupt, which is not the truth. Because people really, even though that they're supposed to know about this fraud, a lot of people, a lot of judges, that's what I'm thinking now, they don't realize. Once they realize, then maybe now much more of them are realizing what's going on. And but then it's really hard, because I really think that banks lobbying is just doing the huge thing behind the scenes, and that they are scaring away these judges probably because banks know if we have so many cases decided in my homeowner's favor, that it's going to be a crazy avalanche of fraud uncovering everything what they did. So I think again, I'm going back to that thing that we don't have lobbying power in regards to money, but our power, I think, is much bigger, because we, the people, we always, when you back in the history, when we get together and when we fight for justice, that's our power. And that's how we will keep going. And every day, I really calling us, we have army of people. And when I compare this, for 2 years ago and now, it's an amazing success, an amazing, web of people coming together. And I understand, as my friend and my guest on the show last week, Lainey from California, she said it right. She said, very often I got tired, because you can't fight this all the time and remain in the same, strength. But then you have your students, you have people that you taught what to do. They are going, and when you're tired, they continue to do this. That's how we are changing the field. But we need more people, and we need to talk more to not only to each other, but to lawyers and to people like you, to these forensic auditors who have answers. Actually, you have the answers in your hands. I can talk about this, but then when I would never be able to talk about this in front of a judge, and you can, because you know exactly what was wrong and why.
Let me just say, also, like you were saying, we have a page that's called Foreclosure Judge Watch, and I've done quite a bit of extensive research, because I don't like to just say things and name bash or anything like that, but basically over the last several weeks, just to support my own thinking, is that it has become very well known that since 2000 to 2009, that for the most part, the judiciary has been for sale. That there has been a whole lot of money and contributions going into influencing the courts, okay? And right on Foreclosure Defense, Foreclosure Judge Watch, I have provided that information. They did a study from 2000 to 2009, and there was one judge that said he never felt more like a hooker at a bus stop than when he was running.
I read about that. Oh, you made my day when I read it.
And one said, I'm not, he said, I'm stating that the judiciary has been for sale. But at the same time, we do know and we believe that there are going to be some people of integrity, people of honor, and we have to believe this, that there will be people of honor and integrity. But again, here we go back to my P now in the P, okay? We get to that. We got time, we got information, we got the process. So this is where you're going to need those attorneys to help you, whether it's processes or procedures, right? This is where you start the battle, is starting out right, using the right arguments, speaking the right language, and then that's where that attorney is going to come in and put in those legal nuts and bolts that compel the court to act in a certain way, or risk going on appeal, so to speak. That's where that legal part comes in too. That's why we have to go in with good cases, framed with good arguments based on previous winnings or whatever, and that's where the civil procedure process. Now that's scary to me, because I can talk all this securitization stuff to you, but when it really comes to civil procedure, I'm learning as I go. And sometimes I kind of impress myself when I'm saying, oh, okay, I kind of figured that out. But it's been 3 years of working with over 20 attorneys here and across the country that they're think tanking, well, what should we do next? What motion should we file? What counterclaim? What affirmative defenses? All these things done correctly from the beginning, okay?
Yes.
Is going to make the difference, because you know your timeline, you got the right information, you got the right process procedurally to get it, whether it is to stop the foreclosure if it has not occurred already, whether it is to undo the foreclosure. And so courts, and we find that some courts, it's like if someone was to bring an issue before you that you fully understand, even if Party A or Party B did not thoroughly understand the strength of either of their arguments, you would. Okay, if your child came to you and said, well, Mom, it's my toy, and your other child B came to you and said, well, no, Mom, it's my toy. Well, that's where the court is. They're in the position of the parent. You would say, no, it's really our toy, so to speak, on your own. Yes. You would govern the situation accordingly from your position of authority. And the courts are not doing this. And this is where we say they're letting them get away with too many passes. The banks are getting a pass, but they get a bigger pass when you don't show up. So
that's true. Yes, that's true. If you don't show up, you just give them more power. And we don't even realize, at the beginning, I always go back on my beginnings, because I thought these banks that they have such a powerful lawyers that they can never be wrong. Actually, it's the opposite. If you challenge them, and sometimes it's so easy to prove them wrong in front of a judge. So don't be afraid to challenge them when you know that you're right. Can I just ask you something? Michelle is asking, and I know that you already said it, and I apologize for not remembering. Michelle is asking, are you is Georgia judicial or non-judicial?
It's non-judicial. Georgia is non-judicial.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it's like taking the test before going to school compared to judicial. I wish I was in a judicial state. Actually, non-judicial in itself is an abomination of our constitutional and property rights of freedom in this country. There's no way no one should ever be able to contractually put you in some series of contracts that say and decide, if I have to come back and take your house, I don't have to take you to court. That is an abomination.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. We have such an I don't know, can you realize, we have so many people in our chat room. We have so many people. So many people log in on the screen. connected with only by their phone, but the other people are actually online, and they are telling their stories right now in the chat room to each other. And you have a message from Hoot Master. I think you recognize his name from Facebook. He said, "Go BJ, we should talk soon."
Who was that?
Hut Master?
Oh, that's Hut Master, yes. That's my friend. Hut is my, Hut, yeah.
So he's right here.
Hi, Hut Master.
He's right here with us. Tell me, Hut, if you want to go live on the radio to talk to BJ, and we will put you on. So the next question that I had for you would be, if you can share, you don't have to give us a name, of course, but I would like to hear some of your success stories, some of people that you connected with and you helped them to maybe not to win their cases yet, but actually to prove mortgage fraud.
Let me say this, and I say it, to the glory of God. I'm like first in. I'm my own first patient. I'm my own first case. And I've been successfully maintaining possession of my properties. Mm-hmm. Everybody that I have worked with is still in possession of their property. Now, have they won? No. Because it is a long process, and we might find that these processes are going to take 3 years. There are some people who may have decided, and again, what I do for the most part is I say that I give information but not advice. I collect enough information. I encourage my homeowners, number one, do as much research as you can. I'm not here to make this decision for you. Now, here's the information, and it may be in your best interest to see an attorney. If you can't do this pro se, and a lot of people had to start out, because I started out pro se, but there were people out there who were more knowledgeable of certain procedures, which, we're still in process and procedures, right, that I didn't know of, but because I was in this network of people, and it was out of Florida, Foreclosure Hamlet. Shout out to all of the Hamleteers down there. We were doing a lot of research and sharing. At the time, we would have to go back 6 months to find a positive report. I think the Landmark versus Kessler, we hung on to that decision like it was our dear life, because we were not getting victories continuously or news of victories from the courts, okay? Now, then, and one of the leaders, I would say, Nye Lavelle kind of built a framework of which we can start to research or question assignments of mortgage. When we look at a document, if it looked like a third grader did it, are you going to let them walk and take your house with that because it's a squiggle mark on the line? Huh?
Yes.
Really? Not me.
Yes.
Okay? So, but at the same time, see, we were looking at, and I think Nye was giving instructions more on how to look at assignments of mortgage and raise question, because if it does not have an appearance of authenticity, you need to go through it line by line. And now, because of the Internet, and the Internet is truly a miracle. Please take advantage of the miracle. Because when we were coming up, some of us, me in particular, there was no Internet. If I wanted information, I had to get up and put my clothes on, walk across campus, look at a mean librarian, go to the card catalog, go upstairs, and hope that a little bit of information is there. Now, if you just seek out information, even if you Google me, you want to know about me, you want to know about Senka, within 2 minutes you can have as much information that's pretty much available on me, okay?
Yes, let me just tell you something. You don't even realize what's happening right now. I'm so happy and touched and emotional right now, because on the screen I see all foreclosure fraud fighters that I have been following their posts since the beginning. They are coming and logging in right now, like all of the. Thank you so much for being with us. thank you for fighting all this time, and thank you for never losing hope to that at the end we will win. And now I would like to put Hot Master on live. I think he has a question for you.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning.
DJ, we finally hear each other's voices, huh?
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I look forward to talking to you next week. But I don't know if you know this, but you know I work for a law firm, correct?
I didn't know. I know maybe you all were getting ready to do something after the first of the year.
Well, Hut Radio has been, I've owned the site and have the equipment, but when Lisa did her show, I decided not to compete, and I don't want to compete, but I want to be, a plug-in to the system. So we keep threatening to put Hut Radio online, and maybe we can complement these types of shows by doing it on a different day and just bringing the group around the country. We're actually out of Tampa.
Okay. Well, you
but,
know, you
anyway,
and I have a relationship.
You have what?
You and I have a relationship.
We do. You're my virtual girlfriend, right?
I met her do the cussing.
Yeah, well, I do the cussing, but I'm really a nice guy. And what you said earlier when I first got on your show is why I'm here. I'm actually an electrical engineer and computer guy. Been working with the firm since '84 as their CIO. And in late 2008, we saw this coming, and I looked at senior partner, which is a very good friend, and said, Tom, it's going to be the computers fighting the computers. And I've since become a trusted advisor to the Treasury on the HAMP programs, and I fight these banks tooth and nail, and we do win. But you have to fight them each and every time. You get a case won, you have 30 milliseconds of high five, and you get started again on the next case.
Absolutely.
So we're here, Hut Master on Facebook, and anything we can do to bring this fight together. I know Michelle's out there. Michelle and I have talked quite a bit. She's come a long way in her year, and we also offer and this is not a commercial, this is all for help. Most of what we do is free. And anything that's, really, really complex, then, we might, have to get paid. But 90% of what I do in my mission is no charge to the homeowner. And I get my glory out of banging the bank against the wall. I mean, this has got to stop. This has got to stop.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was one of the things I said, I'm not here really because if 10 people tried to call me today for an audit, I really couldn't give them excellent service. I'm not in this for the volume. I'm in here for the absolute correctness of learning how to do this thing, because if we go before the courts looking, with inferior audits, inferior affidavits, we don't have to do that. We can bring in audits and affidavits that meet the standards of evidence supported by our audits under penalty of perjury.
Well, that's correct. And you said it earlier, too, and that's our angst here. We can have the best prepared evidence, affidavits, and everything, and if we get a judge that's, ready to go to the golf course, or he's, in all due respect, but just had a couple martinis, we'll look at your case, counselor, but your client's not getting a free house. And in the few times that I've been in court, I basically want to say, well, neither is the bank.
Right, and that's one of the things we're deciding, that we got to have talking counterpoints like the political parties. The banks don't get a free house either. And I don't mind. Whoever is the proper party can have this house. But, again, it would be an injustice to give any party, interloper, pretender lender, my home, and they don't put any standards on the bank to produce anything. You let me come in and go and sign a piece of paper down at the courthouse with squiggle marks on it and try to take your house.
Oh, that's the same. And KT Hamlet, her and I have been research buddies forever. She's way up there in Maine. I'm way down here in Tampa. But I'll tell you, we get together. she's an excellent researcher, and we put these things together, and it's obvious. I mean, LPS assignments of mortgages and Linda Green's. I've got one down in West Palm Beach that I've fought for a year, and I finally got her a modification just to save her home, and it is a Linda Green assignment of mortgage to our friends at American Home Mortgage. And it is as bogus as a $2 bill I could throw out of my Hewlett-Packard printer right now. You know, and that's the thing. Do you calm the piece of business and get the client out of foreclosure by entering into an agreement with the party that doesn't have any standing to enter into the agreement in the first place? Yeah. And our philosophy there is yes, and then we'll turn around and fight them later. Because in Florida, if we bring a countersuit against a foreclosure case, there's the bonds, and just it's a tremendous amount of money to launch the counterclaim. So what you do is, and this is just in my humble opinion, is get the foreclosure closed, get a bogus modification signed, then turn around and file a claim against. And that offsets the need for bonds and all that mess.
Well, I have a client, an elderly lady down there in Florida who we've been working with since 2008. And, of course, by Florida being judicial state, it has really worked to our advantage. One of the things is like if we build a wall, there has to be a point that they won't cross. I mean, we raise certain arguments. Either they have to present credible evidence or lie to the court.
Well, that's it. And we find that intimidation in mediation has been a tremendous success for us. Right.
I think that we need to I think the one place they don't go is, I'm thinking, is fraud. They don't want to commit fraud upon the court.
Correct. But the thing is, as you said earlier, unless we catch them and point out to the court. See, that's the thing. You said it earlier, too. I believe the judges know what's going on, but they are not going to make your case for you.
Right.
So if you come in pro se or you come in, you know, and all due respect to colleagues, there's a lot of law firms that don't know what they're doing and basically go through the motions and let the court decide and look at their client and say, gee, I gave it my best, but we lost. That raises the blood pressure.
I would like to ask you something since I have you here online, and also it would be great if you would agree to be a guest on one of the future programs. I want to ask you if you want to tell me your opinion in regards to LPS and your Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And I don't want to, like, some people know the story, some don't. We can talk about that maybe in the next show. I just want to know, what do you think? Can Pam be held personally responsible for firing these two assistant generals, or or she can blame Inspector General's report?
Well, good question, and I would be honored to be a guest for that part of the question. My philosophy, and again, I was born and raised here. I've followed Pam Bondi forever. Those of you that follow me on Facebook know I don't particularly care for Pam, in that not as a person, but as a state attorney general. I feel, and if you go do your research, LPS was a significant contributor to her campaign. The fact that she fired Ms. Clarkson and that assistant, I think, there were 6,000 signatures on a petition that went to the AG's office, and she was going to launch a full-scale investigation, and anything I've read on that is basically dirt under the rug. So, again, I'm not afraid to talk the truth. I think Pam is, in my opinion, a little bit too biased when it comes to LPS. I think LPS is just criminally responsible for thousands and thousands of illegal foreclosures. We see assignments of mortgages daily in here that have come through either DocX or LPS, And when we and KT and I will get together and research these things down, and 99% of the time we have a signature of a notary that was a vice president of Bank of America the same day and vice president of Mears another day. I mean, the obvious fraud is there, and our attorney general of any state should be the one that should stop this and quit protecting LPS. That's my humble opinion on a Sunday.
Now, you know what?
So much.
In a perfect world, why do we need LPS and DocX?
We
in
don't.
A perfect real estate transaction, old school, sell a house, go down and record the paperwork, everything in blue ink. Why do we, next time that house change hands, the seller, the buyer, everybody signing paper. In the perfect world, in a perfect real estate transaction, there is literally no need for LPS or DocX.
And or Mears. I agree. And the county.
Or nationwide title clearing, your neighbor.
Oh, listen, we see Brian Bly at Starbucks every once in a while.
Really? Come on. No.
I will say. Yeah, I mean, I've got those 2 depositions out. Hut Radio's got just a loop running out there, and every once in a while I'll go live for the foreclosure hamlet, and we'll get together and have these mini little chats. But BJ, you're right. Mears, it was set up to scam the counties out of the recording fees. If in fact Bank of America sells a mortgage to J.P. Morgan Chase, then they would have to file an assignment of mortgage, pay the fees, and file it in the clerk's office, just like in the olden days.
Right.
Mears was snuck in there to be, it'll make it faster and better, and the Glass-Steagall Act, and actually KT's got a lot of good research on the timing that Mears came into play and that LPS came into play. I've got some interesting videos of LPS showing off at one of their conventions back before they got caught, and it is just unbelievably incriminating.
Oh.
Can you send it to us?
I will, and what I'll do is I'll email you my email address and my phone numbers, and I welcome you all to contact me anytime. This is a 7-week job, and we're always here, so I'll send that off to you guys on Facebook later.
Okay, if you can put it on foreclosure.
Can I just ask you one more question? It's unbelievable. Time is flying by, and we have only 14 minutes left in the program. However, our listener, Tony, he's asking me, please bring up the importance of the REST test to be eligible for the HAMP program. So can you say something about this, both of you?
Yes, we actually are, in the state of Florida, we manage the REST report system. And then very quickly, I know you're running out of time, the REST system is actually the net present value system that the banks use to determine eligibility for HAMP. I cannot stress enough that if you are engaged in helping folks get HAMP, to download and digest the manual, and I'll be happy to post that link. If you look at Chapter 2, Part 7, Paragraph 2, it clearly states that if the client is NPV positive, the servicer must offer the modification. Well, I wrote software that calculates the waterfall, and the only part of my NPV test that I can't put up against REST is the analytics on the AVMs on the property. But the REST report is a game changer, and it took a lot to get it, and we're trusted in that. And I'm also very successful and have a high respect with the Treasury on compliance of the program. And the young lady I spoke of down south in West Palm Beach that's taken me a year and a half to get done was a product of escalation through the HAMP directives. And that is something that we'll do for anybody anywhere in the country. We are barred in the state of Florida, but we can do HAMP work and HAMP compliance and escalations for anybody that's under the availability of the HAMP program. But the REST report is a game changer, And again, if you once we swap email, I'll send you some sample reports, and we can get on the phone and I can discuss it, down the stages with you.
You should do a class.
I can give you my email right now, foreclosurefraud12@gmail.com. You can send me all that links, and I will give you a call. We really need to have you also on the program, and we have to have BJ back because she fired up people. People are so inspired to listen and to share and to be here with us. Thank you so much, Haifa, for your call. BJ, let me see. I have a couple more questions for you.
Ladies, thank you. And I'll send my information out. Thank you much.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, BJ, we have 10 more minutes. I want you to tell me, did you have time to read this Huffington Post article about Goldman Sachs and how they are offering subprime mortgages again?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? It gives us some good fun to have today. It's like a lover who's done you wrong many times. It's like, just trust me, baby. This time it's going to be different. But you remember this. No matter, and I just kind of, sometimes I get in a zone of writing. No matter what your bet is, they're going to bet against you. Okay?
Yes.
So go ahead and get with J.P. Morgan again or any of the investors because they are only looking for a way to line their pockets again. Now, let me say this. They make money no matter what. You win, they make money. It's heads they win, tails you lose. They are in it for fees. And the fees are humongous. Pools of transactions are so big. Going back and then researching, I'm doing a generality here. Back about 2002 to 2004, the average pool size would have been like $200 million. Okay? Mm-hmm. If you're an auditor out there now, you know we're looking at pools that are like $600 million. Then we look at pools, $800 million. Then it gets common and more common to see pools, $1 billion, $1.2 billion. Well, if you see one pool that's at $1 billion, let's just stick with $1 billion. How many different companies were originating in that given month? Okay? And then they're going to take their fee. From the originators taking a fee, the sponsor going to take his fee. They're in it for the fees.
Yes.
That was their part of the deal. Originator was in it for his fee. The sponsor was in it for his fee. The depositor was in it for his fee. And the trust is in it for their fee. Okay? So no matter what you do in securitization, they're going to get paid. And that's fine, as long as they do it right and give the consumers some protection. And I go back to this thing about time. Across our society, time has always been a factor. Either you do something by a certain time, and even that means transferring loans into the pools, or not, even if you do it a little bit late. But here we're seeing, and sometimes they had an additional 90 days, these loans were not properly transferred into the pool. Now, what does that mean? That means, like, if Senka, you meant to make me the executor of your estate, right? Mm-hmm. But something happened, and for whatever reason, I don't necessarily know if you did not get to actually sign the paperwork. I'm no longer in that capacity. I'm not, if you meant to give me your power of attorney, and you never executed timely enough that paper, I'm not your power of attorney. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we pay a price. Consumers are paying a price. But we're looking at the closing date and all these other timelines. Time don't lie. Time has to be honored, okay? And we're going to ask the courts to honor and hold these parties, securitization parties, who have received all of their fees and some hefty fees and fines and bonuses. Okay? We need to hold them to the fire because they're going to get the money and the free house. They get the money, the fees, and the house. What we get.
Yes. So how can we stop them of doing this? Like, do you think that, like, if we, like Glass-Steagall Act or any other new regulation, that we can stop these investment bankers to sell us something that we know it's not good?
Well, I don't know. I don't really go, into trying to help them do anything. So I would burn them out. I'm just saying, kidding. Okay? I'll never help my brain don't even work like that, Senka. I'm not trying to help the enemy, but we do need to start looking at how our politicians are voting. We do need to start looking at who's putting money into the coffers of our judiciary. And we need to start speaking in Facebook. I don't say people's names, but I will once I've gathered enough research and information and I have enough credible sources behind it. I will name names. I will show videos. Another thing is for these homeowners, if they can, to ask to have their hearings videotaped. Okay? That would be a great thing. But I'm going to get to the last P in my tip before we end this, and it ties right in. We talked about time, information, process, and my last P is people. And I know that it should probably come first, but usually it gives me an opportunity to say thank you to you, Senka, to Hutmaster, to KT, to MERS, to Ace, to KT Hamlet, to Ron Houchins, to I could just keep on naming names. The foreclosure fraud website.
Yes.
He's done an excellent job of keeping us informed. To all these people, we are not here to be financially compensated. When it's in your heart, your mind, and your spirit, you have a gumption. Sometimes I don't have energy. I just have a gumption. I got to get up and do this again. Okay?
Yes.
And it's now bigger than my house. It's about my community. It's about my country. It's about letting my kids see that mama will fight. My mom, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
My mama not going to let y'all come take our house. You understand? My mom believed that knowledge is power. You understand what I'm saying? And we're sending a message to our kids. And not only we don't send a message to them, we definitely sending a debt to them. Because our kids are ultimately going to be the ones who are going to be paying the money to these foreign corporations for the mistakes of Wall Street. Yeah. Why should we pay? They got the money. They made the mistakes. We made some mistakes too, yes, but there has got to be some due process. Yeah. You can't let the banks get all the money and all the free houses.
So
I'm sorry.
The biggest message from today is just, as you say, like, let's do it. We can do it. We can help each other. And we are not in this for money. We are in this because we realized early on that we are almost left alone on our own to learn and fight. And now many, many people do know how to fight, and we have to use these resources, and we have to get together like this and talk about it and advise each other, and sometimes to inspire each other, to let each other know that we are here if you need somebody to listen. Sometimes that's enough. BJ, thank you so much for being on the program, and I know that many people would like to hear you again, and I hope that you will share your time with us in one of the future programs, because there are a lot of other questions that I would like to ask and discuss with you. But today was some extraordinary program. We had so many people interacting with us and also with each other in the chat room. And I hope that if you can send me, everyone, if weekends work best for you, or maybe weeknights, I can set up one of the next shows, whichever time works best. So
yes.
I would like,
Thank you
we are
so
almost
much.
out.
I just want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you for encouraging me, supporting me, even challenging me. because I'm not afraid to be challenged. I want to get it right. I'm learning. I'm a student.
Sure.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you so much, BJ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And I thank you again, everybody, for being with us today. And I will post soon the time and date for our next program. It will be probably Saturday or Sunday. So if you have any questions or if you would like to share your story on the program, please send me an email at foreclosurefraud12@gmail.com. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I hope to see you and hear from you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.